as they watch their teammates try to hang on to the hill.
And this is another great NA versus EU matchup. McHugh, the best player from New Jersey, and I'd say maybe the best player from the whole East Coast, is going up against Azilis, the most, I would say maybe the best French player right now. For many years, or for many months and years, I guess it would be Nem Sensei, who was sort of the original Clash Royale pro. He was a French player, but in the last couple years, or really last couple months since King's Cup 2, Azilis has really shown his dominance, and now I think we might be seeing a whole lot more of him. Oh, the Bandit dashes and holds the Dark Prince in place, allowing Magic Archer to take a few more shots and survive.
Really great exchange there for CMQ. On defense, he's going to get a lot of value with that Bandit, and then going back on attack, getting a little bit of damage off of that Prince. And Miner chips that left side tower down quite a bit, and that's exactly what CMQ is looking for there. He looks like he's running a log bait style deck here with 2 different Goblin cards, Goblin Gang and the Spear Goblins, but plenty of light chippy damage from CMQ. No heavy hitters we've seen in the deck yet, as opposed to Azilis, who is running a very heavy deck. But what is that from CMQ? The 6 Elixir Giant Skeleton, heavy stopping power, but I don't know if it's going to be able to find anything to hit.
First appearance in today's event. Now this is an interesting card because what I really like is that Magic Archer is pretty good against these giant decks. You can put Magic Archer right at the bridge, and it'll shoot through the giant, hit the tower for some good chip damage.
Ooh.
Weird placement there. I think the idea is that you're going to get the minions on the counter attack.
Yeah, I guess so. Chipping them down, and we'll get a little bit of chip off onto that giant skeleton, but felt a little awkward. Looks like it managed to get the job done anyways.
Interesting here, though, is that Giant Skeleton's going to hold the tower's attention for a pretty long time, allowing Miner to get some serious damage there. Will it be enough to kill this? Go! It does blow up on the Prince. It takes a little while for the Prince to actually start the charge, and during that time, he's moving kind of slow. Giant Skeleton Bomb blew up on him and at least helped mitigate the counterattack.
Right. Little Horsey just needs to gallop and pick up speed. Couldn't quite make it away from that Giant Skeleton, Giant Bomb. CMQ reaches 10 Elixir right after Azilis. Azilis with a big old Giant out back is going to be facing another Giant on the left side. This one, a Skeleton, though, carrying that big old bomb.
Giant Skeleton's a really interesting card because he's such a good defensive. If you remember, there was a time early in the game where he was like the best tank in the game, and it was an interesting meta because it's really hard to attack into a Giant Skeleton. He can just blow up on everything. Giant Skeleton is actually maybe making a comeback as a card that's good against the Golem decks that you're going to see, where everything's all bunched up. You put the Giant Skeleton in the middle, Giant Skeleton dies, and then blows up on everything, including the Golem and the Night Witch behind it.
Exactly, and if you do manage to get lucky enough to get that guy onto tower, he deals a ton of damage. One of the more difficult win conditions in the game, but if you manage to get enough of a beatdown attack against your opponent, you can definitely get value out of that. Now, the dangerous thing for this bomb is that if it is a little bit too far away, wouldn't have hit, but still, big blast radius manages to clip both of those Princes on the charge.
I think it really takes advantage of how slow the Princes are immediately after hitting something. Like, they go really fast when they're charging, but if you can stop them with a Giant Skeleton, then that bomb looks like it's going to go off pretty consistently before the Princes can get out of the way.
If you were to just show me these Spear Goblins, Bandit, you know, really chippy light-based defense, even the Magic Archer, I would have been quite surprised that CMQ would have been able to hold off this long against such a heavy beatdown deck from Azilis, but really clever defense and getting lots of great value out of relatively small troops. Like, look, Spear Goblin is back on the counterattack again. Get an opportunity to strike in there. Looks like he got stopped short right at the bridge, but Azilis has had to drop 8 Elixir to deal with a relatively small push from CMQ.
Yeah, that was, I think, a turning point there for McHugh. He's actually got a little bit of an Elixir lead right now on the board. The problem I see with McHugh is that he got damage in early, got a lot of damage in early, took a big damage lead, but since then, it's been Azilis the one who's been slowly chipping away every push. I haven't seen McHugh generate a lot of damage since that initial Miner that was attacking the tower while the Giant Skeleton was holding the attention.
A double giant push. It is absolutely massive right now. Coming in hard on that right lane. The minion horde on defense stays out of the poison just long enough. This Giant's going to get a few punches off, though. Right side going down below that 2K mark, but looks like it won't be too much worse for wear. The defense is going to hold up after all with the Spear Goblins in back, chipping it down. CMQ has managed to keep his attention on that left side tower and now down to triple digits. He's gotten a nice lead over there.
And once again, Miner is really doing the work. It doesn't do a ton of damage, only 64 damage on every tower swing. But if the tower's not shooting it, then he just sits around and ding, ding, ding. It's not magic, it's a shovel, but it will take that tower down eventually.
Magic Archer getting those shots off. You really want to leverage that long projectile range that the Magic Archer has. The ability to pierce through plenty of targets is a really great opportunity to get a lot of splash damage in there. Miner does go down to a pretty lucky Prince charge right out back at the tower. Just barely got that off, but good catch there for CMQ on the defense side. Looks like he's got a Goblin Gang to deal with this Giant. Clean 3-for-5 trade, and he gets the Magic Archer to split into the opposite lane now.
Magic Archer, one of the few cards in the game that can do that. It's got a long enough range where it can sit in the left lane and shoot across to the right lane and then still go down the initial lane.
He's getting awfully close over there. Trying to get pulled back by an Ice Spirit. I don't know if that's going to do it, though.
He's there! He's there! Now, at this point, McHugh just has to stay alive because as soon as that giant skeleton dies, the game is over. So McHugh playing a little bit of defense here. Magic Archer's going to shoot through, and the bomb blows up. McHugh defeats Azilis of Team Liquid. Meant that he entered ESWC Spring Finals for EU season and more. I mean, he just could not stop for about a year straight.
This is definitely going to be a monster match. Surgical Goblin and CMQ have known each other for a very long time. They've been, doing a little bit of trash talking, ribbing each other in the past. We'll finally get a chance to see here now who's going to edge out ahead. Would be nice to see a big, long show match with these guys later. But we're going to get an excellent preview of their competitive performance here, representing Team Liquid and Immortals, respectively.
McHugh playing the very cheap Expo deck that I think it's Expo at least, earlier in chat and told me that you would either pick Skeletons or Mega Minion, but usually not both. Looks like to me this looks like an Expo deck, but I could be wrong. Hunter comes down, one of the newest cards added to the game, a shotgun style character. He's got the little Davy Crockett hat coming out the back there. He's gonna start shooting a ton of damage up close, a little bit of damage at range, but a good wide spread for taking out things like Minion Horde.
Very well played. I'll agree with you. I'm thinking that CMQ is probably playing an Expo deck here. Yep, there it is. I called it. I don't know if there's any delay on broadcast. I so called that. But oh my God, a P.E.K.K.A out the left lane. Definitely going to put a big old hole in that Expo. Gets the lock, and with 2 chops, that thing is down. Heavy hitters coming in from Surgical Goblin. A
small but important detail there. McHugh put his Ice Spirit 1 tile too close, and it got chopped by the P.E.K.K.A instead of jumping and freezing. And while that's only a second and a half and about 100 damage, that can really make a lot of difference against something like P.E.K.K.A that is very slow to swing.
Right.
You have the Expo and the Mega Minion just working it over for an extra second and a half. Oh, here comes the Hunter. Boom! 1 shots at Electro Wizard, and that's why he sees play. He's a ranged attacker that's great at killing other ranged attackers. When your Musketeer's trying to shoot you at max range, drop the Hunter right up front, and it will just blast the Musketeer away.
Goodness gracious. That's a beautiful lock out the right lane. That Expo chipping away at the tower. It's going to put CMQ in a slight lead here. You see 1395 on his right side tower relative to Surgical Goblin, now dipping into the triple digits.
McHugh is one of the most consistent Expo players in the world. He is just a monster Siege player. He uses his exceptional mechanical placement and timing to take the most advantage of it. We have a defensive Expo. We saw this earlier, so this is definitely a strategy that is not an accident here. What was that fireball? Didn't hit the tower.
It did hit the right side tower and the King and the P.E.K.K.A, but yeah, still a little bit of an atypical play here. It looks like CMQ is willing to go for the spell cycle win at this point, thinking that he can just get the defensive lead over Surgical Goblin and make this a long game here. Hunter in the back is getting lots of nice pop shots off against all of these melee attackers coming in close. Royal Ghost going to give him a little bit of trouble, but the Hunter survives and will get another few shots off against the remainder of these troops.
And it looks like 665 remaining on that tower. Defensive Expo are going to come down. McHugh's at least playing it right in the sense that he only took 100 damage on the last push, but he did 200 damage from a fireball. So we have 665, that's what, 2 fireballs, 2 logs?
Ooh, nice. Yeah, pulls over a bunch of those troops with just some really cheap cycle, Ice Spirit and Skeletons, giving him some good value there. Now the Mega Minion will get distracted, won't even get a chance to shoot at that Royal Ghost. Royal Ghost going invisible, of course, whenever it's not getting hit off on anything, and the Mega Minion floats on into the E-Wiz to meet his ultimate demise. 238, and it looks like with the lead that CMQ has right now, all that he has to do is just defend and keep these pushes off of tower. Surgical Goblin has got a lot of heavy hitters, but he hasn't been able to make it to that tower yet.
And as you mentioned, it's really difficult to build up big pushes against spell cycling decks, because if you put something behind your King Tower, then they just spell it, right? So he has to build up a push, somehow not putting anything too close.
Oh,
the minions!
Man.
The minions are locked onto the tower. It's down to under 300. Now this one more poison and log will do it. So McHugh has to switch over to Expo himself. He can't just rely on fireballs. Here comes the P.E.K.K.A. It's blocked by the Ice Golem at the river. But you think a fireball's going to come through and take the game here?
Oh, yeah,
3,
absolutely. Surge has got this, man.
Miners
we got to see that again later on. The turnabout right there was incredible. Great plays from Surgical Goblin, able to get that right side offer here, and it looks like they're going to be playing, that 8-card setup that was amazing in the spring season last year. It's been dipping down a little bit in usage. Some players have even swapped in Valkyrie instead of the Knight in order to take advantage of the buff to Valkyrie in the nerf tonight. But we're going to see a classic Goblin Blade duel here now.
So here's why I think Trainer Luis made this challenge. Besides believing he's a very good log bait player, if you remember during the fall EU season, Adam was considered the best log bait player in the world, and in one match, Surgical Goblin played a log bait mirror against Adam and won. And that was considered a crazy bold play to play the best log bait player in the world and win the mirror match. So I think Trainer Luis is trying to call his shot Babe Ruth style against Surgical Goblin.
Huh. I think Surgical Goblin's got the better of the first minute here. Looks like he's got a couple of nice chip hot shots off onto the left lane, but getting that King Tower activated is a real big advantage here. You know, they said classical log bait. I'm not sure if they're allowed to switch out between Tornado and Inferno Tower. Those were both used quite frequently in the log bait archetype. We've seen Tornado now from Surgical Goblin. Right side is going to be a log rolling in to try to support this Goblin Barrel push. One of the Goblins makes it onto the tower, though, and one of And there's no King Tower activation. That Tornado just tries to pull the Knight away. Yeah.
Logs out of hand, so you could see maybe a Goblin Barrel right now, but Surgical Goblin already has a pretty good setup because he was able to Tornado Goblins to his King Tower much earlier, so that Surgical Goblin King Tower is activated right now. Oh, Log's coming in. Great placement. You put the Goblin Barrel up front, so all of the Goblin Gang has to run towards you. You hit the Log, and it cleans out most of the Goblin Gang.
Beautiful read by Trainer Luis. We saw an Ice Spirit there to catch all three of those Goblins landing right in the same spot. You can see Surgical Goblin far ahead in the damage race here, but it's not a lead that Trainer Luis couldn't come back from here. We'll see if this elixir advantage that Trainer Luis has right now can be leveraged into a counter push.
Yeah, Log Bait is a classic one tower deck. It's not going to try to 2-1 you or 3-crown you. It's just trying to take one tower. Remember, the 8th
Although
card...
in the mirror match, it could be slightly different.
In these, the 8th card is Rocket for both decks, right? So even though, yeah, there's a 200 damage advantage, they're both just going for Rocket Cycle. Right now, Trainer Luis would win that. I'm sorry, Surgical Goblin would win that exchange because he was a little bit ahead, but Trainer Luis is going to try to catch up by using a few Princess and Goblin Gang tricks.
So Trainer Luis soaking a Goblin Gang out the right side is a very aggressive, ballsy move. He's saying, basically, I'm confident that this is going to be a 1-0 game, and I know that I can outcycle you to get that victory. Right now, though, he's down by about 400 hit points. Surgical Goblin on defense with a Princess in back is going to start getting some chip damage against the Knife. Protecting his own Princess with a Knight play of his own, though, at that right side bridge. Looks like Surgical Goblin is now going to have to contend with a Goblin Barrel going out back. Catches it with the Goblin Gang perfectly, and he'll go on the counterattack with another rocket flying in.
I think that's 3 times now Luis has put the Goblin Barrel in the exact same spot, and that's, I think, your Surgical Goblin is good at picking up those patterns and taking advantage of them. Here we are. One Rocket's going to come in, I think, for Surgical Goblin and try to finish this game off.
Yep, Rocket and Log will do it. Surgical Goblin has got the win here, just needs to get to that elixir and hold off against one final Rocket assault. Backside's down to 916. Good Rocket hit there, but Surge with the win throws those final 2 spells and will defeat Trainer Luis 1-0 in this game.
You know,
okay, both players are ready, wiping the sweat off their palms, ready to get these hits off. Oh, crap. With the hat on, he looks like he's in the darkness there. Surgical Goblin a little bit more out in the brightness. Since we're in Texas, I think we can give him some Old West analogs. Aw crap with the black hat. I think it's got to make him the outlaw in this matchup.
You know, I know, Woody, you're from Texas originally, but we also have in the crowd one of the most famous Clash Royale Texans, Godslayer from the spring season. He's got his big old 10-gallon hat sitting out in the crowd. He's local boy, so he was able to come on down here and see the show. So he's hanging out. We'll probably see him tomorrow in the $20,000 Open.
Ooh, good chance of that. The qualifiers are happening right now, so make sure to come on down to South by Southwest if you want to get a chance to compete in them. Great strike from that Sparky out the right lane. Tornado will allow Surge to pull that Giant onto the King Tower and get a nice defensive edge here, but what can he do against a Skarmy? Nice 2-for-3 trade with the Ice Skull out back.
Surgical Goblin is one of the most aggressive Tornado players
What's
in the game.
What's doing? He's not even looking at the screen! He dropped a Mega Minion and figured that would be enough to defend. I guess so.
I think, you know, one of the cool things about this is starting to see that the personalities of the teams evolve. And if there's one word I would use to describe Immortals so far, it's confident. All of them, whether or not the results bear it out, are all pretty confident. CMQ definitely, confidence is key. This is on his Twitter account. You can see it every time.
Yeah.
But, you know, Trainer Luis felt good about making that challenge. Like, I can beat you in a mirror match. Let me do that. And Crap's sitting here playing stuff, looking around, pointing fingers.
Confidence and well-humor.
Yeah.
You know, well-mannered, good-humored.
Yeah.
I think that they're all clearly having a lot of fun with the event today.
Oh, no!
Wow.
Wow, the guard shields all came off, and the splash was big enough to also hit that Executioner. But I was saying, Surgical Goblin, one of the most aggressive Tornado players in the game, he was one of the first players I saw to start tornadoing 3 Musketeers all into the same lane. He's definitely willing to tornado, obviously, Goblin towers and things like, or Goblin barrels to your tower, but he even does it to, like, unsupported Giants and Golems. Like, if you just let the tank get to the tower, it's like, now I was tornadoed to my King Tower.
I don't know if you notice this or not, Awcraft just got hoisted by his own petard out that right side, tried to send the Sparky in to back up the Giant on the left lane, but the pushback from Sparky firing onto the defending troops resulted in that Sparky going down the right lane. This is a big hit right now for Surgical Goblin. Right side's getting chopped apart at Executioner. Uncontested. Mega Minion finally swipes him down, but that right side has been finished off, and Crap has only got 24 seconds left to get this thing in overtime.
I'm telling you, if you want to learn how to play Tornado at the top level, you got to watch Surgical Goblin's games. This dude pulls Tornado moves that I feel like no other player is able to do. So that's one of the things that makes him stand out. Crap throws the minion horde down. I don't know if that was a joke or not because he put Skeleton Army right after. But he is going to take this game. And you know what that means? Surgical Goblin is going to claim our $100 bounty for 3-0 sweeping the Immortals team.
Well played to Surgical Goblin.